Having convinced her friend to take care of things back in office, Sylvia was on her way to the Northeast. She believed that the specific character of the Northeast, however, extended beyond its physical features. And who would understand this fact better than her? After all, she was a child of the Northeast itself. Sylvia, based in Delhi, was a research scholar and doing a thesis on some of the age-old traditional villages in India. Thus, how could she miss this opportunity of coming to the Northeast? Moreover, it was a long time since she had an urge of getting back to her roots. As she moved towards her destination, Sylvia was certain that she had made the correct decision. Namphake, the queer village, was the ideal research material for her thesis. Migrating from a widespread province, Yunnan in China, in 1228 AD, the Namphakes had wandered for 75 years from one bank to another of the river Buridihing. Wandering through Burma, Arunachal and other parts of Assam, a section of the Namphake people finally established a village on the bank of the river Buridihing in 1850 AD. Consisting of 50 houses, Namphake is the largest and most populated village of all the Namphake villages. Namphake, the name itself, has many legends attached to it. After migrating from Yunnan, when the Phakes inhabited the Hokong Valley close to Burma, they were living near the wall of an old mountain against which the waves of the three rivers forever violently bespattered. Phake meant the wall of an old mountain, or in other words, the Thai people inhabiting near the side of the old mountain. Similarly, Nam meant water, and so when the people of Namphake settled on the bank of river Buridihing, they called the village Namphake. So interesting is the past of these people that even today, if one enters the village platform houses, one can still hear the emotional stories of the Namphakes about their days lost in the sands of time.
And here, ultimately, I have reached the village. It's Namphake village, where the Phakial tribe dwells. And I'm really excited to explore about their culture, tradition, and overall their lifestyle. And I really have to do this.
As Sylvia entered the gate marking the village, she noticed huge green fields surrounding her. As she had heard, the Phakes were an agricultural society. Very sturdy and hard-working, Sylvia found both the women and men equally working in the fields. Rice being the staple food for them, rice cultivation was a major part of the agriculture, so much so that every house had its own little field. As she moved ahead, the elegant Buddhist Namphake monastery was the first thing that welcomed her while entering this ancient village. Established in 1850, the Namphake monastery held a very strong position not only in the village but also in the hearts of the people of the village.
Established in the year 1850, this Namphake Buddhist monastery is acting as a mentor. It's not only a place of worship but also plays a very important role in the socio-religious activities of the people.
Since time immemorial and according to the treaties, the Namphakes during their entire history of dissemination have been followers of Buddhism. The monastery had been playing a very major role in helping the people to keep their culture and tradition alive. A strong force in the Namphake village, the monastery had seen much sun and stands proud to witness the establishment of this village. Sylvia believed that there could be no other better place than the monastery to understand the village better. As she walked around the monastery with the monk as her local guide, she noticed that many young girls, women, and grannies were coming towards the monastery with traditional baskets in their hands. On inquiring, she came to know that all the villagers offered food to the monastery in the early morning before they started off their day. A casual duty, this activity had already become a ritual for the villagers of Namphake, and till date, the villagers had never failed to offer food to the monastery day after day. Sylvia was overwhelmed by what she saw. Probably nowhere else had she seen such commitment towards a duty. As she watched the women folk walk in with the baskets with utmost dedication, she had an inkling she was going to love the day ahead. After gathering enough information from the monk, she moved towards the village. As she moved around the village, she noticed that the houses were situated in such a way that each house was in vicinity to the river, so accustomed to their past. The Buridihing River, from which the village has derived its very name, has been an everlasting companion of these people since their nomadic days.
Here, I am refreshing myself on the bank of river Buridihing, which has been a testimony to the settlement of the village Namphake. And as I move around the village, I found out that the speciality about this river is facilitates them, and most of the houses have been built near the bank of the river.
Even today, the villagers use the river for their day-to-day life activities, or merely to sit on its bank and reminisce about their past. Sylvia noticed something very special about the village. The traditional houses that she had always read about were in front of her.
This is a traditional Phake house called Unha, also known as Changhar. One special thing about them is that though there are modern amenities inside the house, but the Phakes, while building the house, keep the traditional design and structure intact.
In order to save themselves from wild animals and other dangers, built on high posts then, the Phakes of Namphake till date build their houses in the same way. Not only the exteriors, but the interiors also to a limit still remain the same. One of the ladies in the village was more than welcoming to show Sylvia around the house, but also offered her to stay until lunch. Though many modern gadgets exist in a house, the way of living is not mechanical. The kitchen is still maintained traditionally and even now, food like the steamed rice is cooked through its original procedure. Utensils and other objects in the kitchen reminded one of the golden days. As she walked towards the monastery for her lunch, Sylvia saw that the vacant space under the houses had now found a better purpose, and something that not only interested Sylvia but would interest any other girl. Yes, it was the traditional clothes.
Even today, the Fakis use the clothes they weave for themselves. That's why a loom is a must in every house in the village.
A major time of the village women is dedicated in weaving clothes. Woven in various colors and golden threads, the traditional dress of the Thai Fakis are a treat for the eyes. As she reached the monastery, her hunger had found no bounds, and Sylvia was only too happy to help herself.
It's really tasty. And these are all boiled, and I think it's medicinal plant. Boiled.
Yes, mushroom.
Mushroom. This mushroom.
Spread before her was an array of the traditional food, and it was a long time since her taste buds had a feel of all this.
I'm really lucky to have a share of it. Okay.
She sensed this was going to be worth it. Satisfied to the core, she then turned her head towards the main force of the very existence of the intact culture of the Thai Fakes, the Thai Fake script. The Thai Fakes, in order to celebrate any social function, use their own language, whether written or spoken, to express or exchange their ideas and consummate the function.
Although Assamese is very much prominent here, but the Fakis have their own sacred script called Thai script, which is used extensively in religious activities.
Moreover, elderly persons of the village also wrote improvised versions of the treaties called Likputi in the Thai language and donated them on religious occasions. This they did as they believed was one of the greatest deeds in their lives. Soon, as the sun started dimming, the scenario in the village was changing. Young girls with beautiful bouquets in their hands were coming into the monastery to offer their evening prayers. A very beautiful way to keep the young generation connected to their roots, this practice had become a custom for them. But today was special. Not only the young girls, but the elderly people were also flocking to the monastery. Sylvia realized she was very lucky. Today was Purnima, the full moon day of the month, when the Fakes observed Ashtasila. Every month on this day, the elderly folks of the village come to the monastery in the evening and offer their prayers. As Sylvia sat beside them, she felt a pure and divine emotion take over her. The ritual consisted of all the people gathered in the monastery to take their oaths to follow the eighth path of knowledge strictly for the next 12 hours. As they took their oaths, Sylvia believed that even though these people would renounce their oath officially the next morning, they would always be respected for their entire life. As the ceremony ended, the people offered all the flowers and offerings to the river as a mark of tribute to it. Sylvia too threw her flowers into the river, but for Sylvia, the ritual had just started, the ritual of coming back to this place.
As my day ends, I realize that one day is just not enough in Namphake village. I really have to come back to this place.
A quick learner, Sylvia was ready to move ahead and more than eager to reach her next destination, the legendary Naga village, the Konoma village of Nagaland. Around 19 kilometers from the capital city Kohima, the drive to Konoma was an enjoyable experience. As the car drove through the hills, Sylvia was welcomed with sights she had long forgotten. The fast-moving clouds against the green hills looked as if they were rejoicing and dancing.
All the way from Namphake village, I finally reached Konoma. Let me tell you, I'm equally excited to know about these people and what their life is all about.
Deriving its name from the beautiful flower Kono, Konoma was no less beautiful than a flower amidst the green hills and terraced fields. The entire village looked as if it was an artwork carved in stones. Known for producing some of Nagaland's most respected doctors, professionals and musicians, Konoma had the honor of being known as the intellectual village. However, Konoma's fame comes chiefly through its standing as a warrior village. From 1830, the village was recorded as putting up fierce resistance to the British colonial rule. Further expeditions and attacks against Konoma's war took place in 1849 and 1850, but it was in 1879 when the British political assistant was killed in Konoma. Then followed the siege of the British garrison at Kohima by warriors from the village and several others. As Sylvia entered the gate to one of the main centers of attraction, the memorial commemorating some of the British soldiers who died here, she could feel the love of these people for their land.
This place is incredible. I'm standing on the fort, which has been built by the British government in memory of its officers and soldiers who had been killed by the Konoma Nagas during the Second World War.
Built on the highest point in the village, this memorial was a constant source of energy to the villagers regarding their dedication towards the village. As Sylvia wandered around the village, she realized that the village was territorially divided into 3 residential segments, commonly known as Khel. There was one fort in each of the khels called Kuda, which literally means a place of defense. The forts as a rule are built on a raised area within the khel, usually overlooking the khel gate and the entrance point. The forts are well protected from the outside by magnificent stone structures.
The fort I'm standing on belongs to the Semama clan. From here, the villagers fought against the Britishers.
It is stated that in the olden days, the strength of the Khel is measured by the condition of the Kuda and the presence of the young warriors. Even today, each Khel was responsible for the maintenance of their Khel fort. Similarly, these three Khels also have their own community halls known as Morangs. The institution played the most significant role in the communal life of the clan. The Morangs still continue to be important focal points in all the Khels. These Morangs were used by the young and old men of the village to sit in it and guard the village. Though the Morangs are ordinary family residences, the building is divided into three parts. The outer area with a central fireplace surrounded by seating. The middle area, the sleeping quarters made of a huge single plank on which only the male members are allowed. And the inner quarters are the host's family living area. The Morang continues to serve as the meeting place for the members of the clan, and it is still considered the most reliable point of dissemination of information. Even in this world of high infotech, Konoma is still following the path its forefathers had done. Whenever there is an occasion in the village and the news has to be given to everybody, Feshe is done. Feshe involves the owner of the Morang to stand at a high point and call the owner of the other Morang. When responded, he forwards the news about the occasion. These owners of the Morang spread the information in their area, and as a result, on the day of the occasion, the entire village is present. This procedure is so amazing that one has to see it to believe it. Even more amazing for Sylvia was the fact of the existence of one letterbox in the main junction of the village.
This that you see behind me is the one and only mailbox in the entire village. But mind you, postal services are yet to reach Konoma. As for now, the bus drivers put all the letters here and the student union do the job of distributing them.
Every day, letters if any were distributed to the right places without fail. As Sylvia saw all this, she assumed that Konoma was like a museum village, where things we only heard or read about could be seen. But as she moved ahead, she also agreed that it was one of the most well-organized village she had ever seen. The water source at different places in the village spoke volumes about their discipline. Green, beautiful dustbins lined all around the village reminded her of any modern environment-conscious city. Sylvia made sure that she threw all her waste in the bins only. No surprise, Konoma was given the honor of being called the Green Village of India.
Konoma village has the honor of being called a green village in India. And as a testimony to it, the youth have been assigned by the central government to paint all the roofs green.
And I must tell you that the youths are doing a great job.
Moving ahead, she starts falling in love with the village atmosphere. Children had always been her favorite, and she loses no chance to have a close moment with them. A very common sight in the village, men and women drink and enjoy rice beer immensely. An integral part of their lives, Sylvia too dares to give it a chance. Eventually, as evening descended, it was time for the afternoon mass. A beautiful sight with all the people coming to the church. Sylvia is beckoned by the serenity of the church. Introduced in 1890, the Konoma Church is a witness to the purity in the lives of these people. Today was Sunday, and all the village people were ready for a special presentation. As they prayed, they thanked God for making them belong to this beautiful place. Sylvia too thanked her stars for having this opportunity to have a first-hand experience of this mystical place.
I was always told that my share of sky exists somewhere. But after coming here, I have realized not only a part of it, but the entire sky is here for me. And I thank Konoma for making me feel complete.